G'day guys, how you going? I'm Grassy, but you can call me Dylan, and I'm here to bring you the Adelaide Bolt Strikers draft analysis for Season 1 of the Pokemon Masters United Showdown League. Just want to give a big shout out to House Infinity as the sponsors, I guess, of this league. They're a great bunch of Pokemon YouTubers, and definitely worth you checking out. The details to that will be in the description below. But without further ado, I'll get into the league rules and the draft. So it's a Gen 7 league. So most of the new Pokemon and forms from Sun and Moon are in this league. Tapu Lele, Xurkitree, Pheromosa, Zygarde 100%, Solgaleo and Lunala, I think, are the only bands, and Battlebond Greninja as well. They're the only bands that I can think of. And everything else was free to pick. It was a GBA style draft, so there was a tiers system, tiers 1 through 5, and a mega tier. We're playing in custom matches, so we were free to pick any mega we wanted. So yeah, going into this draft, I joined the league about half an hour before the draft started. I think I had 35 minutes between when I joined the league and when my pick was. So I didn't have a lot of time to sort of prepare a team or anything like that. This entire draft was just me grabbing picks as I went. So I wasn't really sure what to grab. I did want to try out some of the new mons, that's for sure. And my first pick just came down to a Pokemon that I felt made a really good defensive core with Tyranitar and Toxapex, and that was Tapu Bulu. This defensive core between Tapu Bulu, Tyranitar, and Toxapex comes down to their types. So each attack type that one of the Pokemon is weak to, one of the other two resists it or is immune to it. So that was the only thing that I knew of in Gen 7 Draft League format. So that's what I was aiming for when I made my first pick. So I'm really happy with this pick. Even how the rest of the draft went and any snipes that may or may not have happened, Tapu Bulu is a monster. Base 130 attack with decent bulk and the fairy typing means that it is just a really great offensive threat and also can live a couple of hits as long as it's not poison being quad weak to it because it's a grass type as well as that fairy type. It has the ability Grassy Surge to activate grassy terrain, meaning any Pokemon that is grounded gains 6% of health at the end of every turn. So that just adds to its longevity. It has some pretty great coverage moves in the likes of Wood Hammer for stab, Dazzling Gleam, Brick Break, Mega Horn. There's a lot of great moves there. It gets access to Calm Mind and Sword Stance, so I can set up on both sides, either physical attacking or special attacking, because 85 special attack isn't unusable. So going into round 2 then, I had my Tapu Bulu, and I noticed that once I had the time to check the draft tiers, Hippowdon was in tier 2, which was just phenomenal. Hippowdon is too good to be a tier 2 Pokemon with its bulk and reliable recovery. So I decided that I was going to aim for Excadrill for my next pick and Hippowdon on the way back so I could start building a Sand Core. But unfortunately Excadrill got sniped from me, so I had to rethink my plans, and I was still thinking maybe of grabbing Tyranitar and going for that defensive core, but in the end I decided that Hippowdon was just too good to pass up. Hippowdon is one of the greatest physical walls in Draft League format, in my opinion. It gets access to Stealth Rocks for some hazard support, Slack Off for reliable recovery, Whirlwind to phase Pokemon out that are trying to set up on you, along with Earthquake, Iron Head, Stone Edge, and the Elemental Fangs for a bit of coverage. Also Crunch is there as well for those bulky Psychic types, which are pretty common. Coupled with its base 108 HP, 118 defense, and decent 72 special defense, along with a 112 attack. It's just an absolutely amazing Pokemon to use. It has the Sandstream ability, which means that it summons a Sandstorm for 5 turns or 8 turns if it's holding the smooth rock. And that means that it can start wearing down the opponent's Pokemon that isn't a ground, rock, or steel type. Coupled with Tapu Bulu's grassy terrain, means that Hippowdon can be wearing the opponent down whilst gaining HP back, and just adds to the fact that it's such a difficult mon to take down. Once I got Hippowdon, I really considered grabbing Tyranitar as well, and still going for that defensive core that I originally planned. But I decided that I wanted to get something that was a little bit more offensive, and I was really gunning for a nice Volt Turn team for this season. It's something that I always enjoy using, and I never seem to draft enough of it. So I decided that that would be the focus for my draft for this season. So my next pick was Victini. Victini is an amazing Pokemon in Draft League format. Base 100 stats across the board means it can be run either as a physical or special attacker, and it can even be run bulky if need be. Psychic Fire typing is really great offensive typing. Not so good on the defensive, taking 25% from Stealth Rocks, so that is a bit unfortunate. But Victini's move pool is just outstanding, and it was something that I just could not pass up. Like I said, it's a U-turn user, meaning I can get momentum, either getting Tapu Bulu in for free, or switching out into Hippowdon to take the hits for Victini. It gets some great moves like Bolt Strike, Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Psychic, Zen Headbutt, Blue Flare, and its biggest draw point is the move V-Create, which is a base 180 attack, and not much wants to take a Choice Band Victini V-Create. It's just absolutely outstanding. So I'm really excited to use this Pokemon. I've always wanted to use it. I hope I do it justice, but we'll see what happens. Going into my next pick, I realized that I've got a way to set hazards, and I've got a Pokemon that's weak to hazards, so I need something that can remove them. And I'd been considering this type combination with Tapu Bulu from the start, so I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't grab Tentacruel. Tentacruel is a really great Pokemon to have in Draft League format. It has great special defense in 120 and usable 80 HP. Its defense at 65 leaves a little to be desired, but it's still a really good Pokemon to use as a bulky Pokemon. It gets access to Rapid Spin and Toxic Spikes, so it can set and remove hazards. And base 100 speed means that it can be used as an offensive Pokemon or to outspeed something that you normally wouldn't expect it to outspeed, which is really handy to have. It has great coverage moves in the ever spammable Scald, along with Dazzling Gleam, Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain. So it's a really good, it has really great coverage to hit a lot of different types. Bulky Water means that I've got a reliable ice resist for Hippowdon and Tapu Bulu. And being a grounded poison type means, one, that it gains health back from Tapu Bulu, and it can remove Toxic Spikes from my field by just being sent into battle. Next, I wasn't sure what to go for, but I had my Mega planned, and then I think it was either round 3 or round 4, Mega Steelix went, and whilst that wasn't what I was planning on getting, there were two people who wanted Mega Steelix. One got it, one didn't, and I decided I couldn't take the risk in losing my Mega. So the next Pokemon I grabbed was Mega Aggron. Mega Aggron is an amazing Pokemon. It's a pure Steel type, which means it resists common offensive types like Psychic, Ice, and Dragon. And then when you couple that with its okay base 70 HP, amazing, absolutely amazing 230 defense and 80 special defense, this Pokemon is such a bulky wall for your team. It has the filter ability, which means super effective moves only do 1.5 damage rather than 2 times the damage. And it has a great attack stat with 140, which you can definitely use moves like Earthquake and Heavy Slam, the Elemental Punches, Stone Edge to really put holes in opponents' teams. It has Stealth Rocks, Thunder Wave, and Roar for some team support. And the biggest selling point for me is the fact that with Tapu Bulu's grassy terrain, this is a Mega Aggron with leftovers, and that's just absolutely crazy. I would hate to ever face that. For my next pick, I knew that I needed a Heal Bell or an Aromatherapy user to support my team, because nothing on my team really wants to get statused. So Thunder Wave and Burns and even Toxic on my Hippowdon just would put a huge dent in my team. So I needed something that could heal that off, and I would really love to have a Wish user for Mega Aggron, because its only way to heal up is via Rest, which isn't very reliable. So I was looking at what was left, and I saw that I was going to have to double up my types. And in the end, I decided that I would go for what I thought was the best Cleric left, and that was Vaporeon. Vaporeon is an absolutely amazing Pokemon to have in Draft League format. It has 130 HP, 60 defense, and 95 special defense. So whilst those defenses aren't the greatest, that HP stat more than makes up for it. It has the Water Absorb ability, which means that water type moves have no effect, which is really good considering Hippowdon and Victini are sitting there on my team and don't really want to take a Scald. It has usable 110 special attack, really good for a wall. And its main offensive moves aren't the greatest, but it does have access to Scald and Ice Beam, which is still absolutely amazing. But its biggest draw point is Wish and Heal Bell. So Heal Bell, I can get rid of Burns, Paralysis, or Toxic on my team, which I was quite weak to up until this stage. And being able to set up wishes for my team is even better. A max HP Vaporeon Wish heals up 67% of a max HP Mega Aggron and Tapu Bulu, and without HP, those Pokemon gain 82% of their HP back from a Vaporeon Wish. So that is just absolutely incredible. My next pick that I wanted was something that was a little bit more offensive, because as you can see, I have a very defensive team so far. And I also wanted another hazard remover. And something that really fit the bill was Hitmonlee. Now, whilst Hitmonlee isn't the greatest rapid spinner in Draft League format, it's still a really good Pokemon to have. It has base 120 attack and 110 special defense, meaning that it's a really great Assault Vest user. 87 speed is decent without being too fantastic, but it has some really good coverage moves in Mach Punch for priority, High Jump Kick, and Close Combat to really punch holes in teams. Knockoff is always handy to have in Draft League format. It gets Poison Jab for Fairy types, so it can cover some of its weaknesses. But its big draw point, along with the Rapid Spin, is its 3 abilities. Limber isn't really used that often, but it's immune to paralysis, which is always handy. Reckless means that its high jump kicks do more damage. which is just crazy because a base 130 attack coming off base 120 attack stat is just absolutely amazing. And then what I think is the best ability for it is Unburden. It means that Hitmonlee can become a setup sweeper because once it uses up its item, it doubles its speed. So if you run something like a Lychee Berry, which means you gain +1 attack, plus Endure, all of a sudden you have a Hitmonlee that's at +1 attack and double speed, and that's just really, really scary to try to stop. Continuing on with the draft, I said early that I wanted a nice Volt Tone core, and that really hasn't happened yet. I've got a decent Baton Passer in Vaporeon, but I don't have a fast electric type for that Volt switch. Looking at my team, I found a Pokemon that I think fits relatively well, and that's Heliolisk. Heliolisk is a good Pokemon in Draft League format because it has some really great coverage moves and a base 109 special attack and 109 speed that makes it really, really usable. It gets access to things like Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Hyper Voice, Surf, Dark Pulse, Dragon Pulse, and U-Turn, so it's got some really great coverage moves, and it provides me with another way to gain momentum. It has the Dry Skin ability, which makes it immune to water type attacks, and Sand Veil, if I wanted to get a bit cheeky, I could run that with Hippowdon and maybe try to dodge some moves. But there's not really a whole lot to say about Heliolisk. It only has 1 or 2 jobs, but it does them very well, and I'm really happy to have it on my team, even though I've now got another ground type weakness, which isn't too fantastic. So going into round 9, I had a few things on my mind. I didn't have a dragon type yet to finish off my Dragon Fairy Steel core, and as I said before, I'm very weak to ground so far. But there was a Pokemon left that fits the bill perfectly, and that's Hydreigon. Hydreigon really, really fits this team very well. It's base 105 attack and 125 special attack with 98 speed means that it's a decent enough offensive Pokemon, even though it's sitting just under that base 100 speed tier. But it has absolutely amazing coverage. It gets Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, U-Turn, Superpower, so it can hit on both sides of the spectrum quite easily. The Dark type gives me a Psychic immunity, and having the Levitate ability means that I've got a ground type immunity, which is really good to have for this team as it is so ground weak. This Pokemon is a fantastic Choice Scarf user, and it can also be run with a Life Orb or a Specs or a Choice Band quite easily. And its unpredictability makes it a really good Pokemon to have in Draft League format. The next Pokemon I decided to get was something that was in Tier 5. That's all I had left to pick were my Tier 5 Pokemon. And there wasn't a whole lot on offer, but there was one Pokemon that I don't think should be in Tier 5. I think it's easily a Tier 4 Pokemon, and that is Dodrio. In Generation 6, I would have said that Dodrio was perfect where it was in Tier 5. However, in Generation 7, it gained 10 points in its speed, and also gained the moves Jump Kick and Swords Dance, which means that it's all of a sudden a very threatening Choice Scarf, Choice Band, or Setup Sweeper. It has access to moves like Knock Off and Brave Bird, which are really great to have in Draft League format. Knock Off to remove items, and Brave Bird because Flying type spam is always handy to have. Its abilities aren't that useful. However, having access to Agility and Baton Pass as well as the moves listed before means that it can be a Baton Pass user as well. Going into my final pick, I had this Pokemon lined up from the start, There was another team that had Excadrill and Tyranitar, so it may have been on their radar. However, I got the pick before them, so I was able to grab this up, and that is Stoutland. Stoutland is a really interesting Pokemon to have. It has decent bulk in 85 HP, 90 defense, and 90 special defense, coupled with Intimidate as its ability. It means that it can be a surprisingly bulky Pokemon to face. However, with its 110 attack, usable 80 speed, and the ability Sand Rush, this Pokemon really fits well into this team because it can become a Sand Rush sweeper coupled with Hippowdon, or it could just be a fast wall breaker with a choice band, return, wild charge, play rough, crunch. It's got great coverage moves, and overall it's just a really good Pokemon to have. It only ever seems to find a spot in a sand team, but I think that it really works well with my team. Even though it's an extra fighting type weakness, I feel like I've got the right Pokemon to cover that weakness. So there you have it, guys. That's my draft. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Even though I was aiming for a really fast Volt Turn core, I still feel like I got enough in the picks that I have to make that core, even though it's not the fastest draft in the world. But I really feel like having the bulk that I do more than makes up for it. I'm really excited to use this team, and I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about the picks that I have. My only really fault with it is that my fastest Pokemon is at base 110 speed, and also I've got 2 bulky waters, which probably isn't all that necessary, but I feel like the 2 that I have do a different enough job to warrant them both being in a team. But in saying that, it may be something that I look to change in my trades later on in the season. But anyway, guys, before I start rambling on too much, I'd just like to thank you all for watching. And again, let me know what you think of the team. But anyway, guys, I'm going to head off. I'll catch you around like a Rissar.